I always enjoy reviewing Ping irons, like always. It's something that I very much look forward to, and I thought at the moment, I need a bit of excitement. Ping Blueprint versus Ping G710. Oh, we're going there. Let's do it now. Okay, I've absolutely middled that one. Hi everyone, James Robinson here. Guys, first of all, before we get into this video, I would like to warmly welcome you back to the channel. I hope you're staying safe at home. I hope you're doing what you need to do if you are isolated, and I hope you're making the most of it, maybe getting some practice in at home. I will be putting some videos on from my house so I can show you how maybe you can improve your game while we're in this rubbish time. But today guys, we are reviewing, well, comparing. Can you even compare these? Can you compare these? Guys, hit those comments below. Who here does use either the Blueprint or the G710 irons? And guys, before we get into the comments, I'd just like to let you know that this is basically a bit of fun, because we all know that the G710 is designed for a totally different player than the Ping Blueprint. However, how good does the Ping Blueprint look? But then, I suppose for some players, how good does the Ping G710 look? I think they both look great. And you see, this is really the first time you can say that about the full range of Ping irons, because there's been a few ugly ones in the past, I'm not gonna lie. But generally, performance-wise, Ping always make very, very good irons. So let's get to it. We're gonna start with the G710. And straight away, the G710, obviously, looking down at it, I mean, looking down at the ball, it is a massive club head. I've nearly missed that. That was a terrible, I thought I'd shanked it, to be honest, and look at that for results. And I mean, looking down at these irons now, you will notice that the G710 has a huge blade length, a massive thick top line, loads of offset, and it's even got a longer shaft in there as well. Not to mention the loft. So the specs on these irons, as you'll see on the screen now, the G710 do offer 4.5 degrees stronger lofts and 3/4 of an inch longer shafts. That's a lot. But I suppose they are designed for totally different people. So while the Blueprints are designed for Louis Oosthuizen, Tony Finau, some of the best ball strikers in the world, the G710 are more designed for Bob and Paul and Tony. Pretty much anyone who's going to rock up at the Sunday afternoon fiddle and just try and shoot the handicap. Okay, I've absolutely middled that one. 185 yards. I think we've got longer in me, so we have had a warm-up with these clubs, and I'm not going to lie, we nearly got 200 yards. There's that little loft on it, I can't even get it up on the map there. We did nearly get 200 yards with the G710 7 iron. 200. 191, we're now getting there. You'll see that the spin is really low, so they're spinning at around 4,500. That's something which, to be honest, I would expect with these irons. Obviously, when we move into the Blueprint, I would imagine that we're not going to see that distance, but hopefully we should see quite a lot more spin. For me, I'd expect to be spinning these around 6,000, which is still low, but I'm a very low spin player anyway. I am missing a couple of these G710s left. There is loads of offset on these clubs, so they are a bit of an anti-right club. So if you are struggling with a slice with the irons, then these could be the ones for you. Similarities with these clubs. Bet you didn't see that one coming. You'll see both the clubs do have a little bit of a port there, a bit of a weight in the toe, so they do have an element of stability for both of them. But generally, that is where the similarities end, obviously even down to the finish. So we have this wonderful black finish on the G710, and we have the beautiful Hydro Pearl finish on the Blueprint. How good do they look? Better than them? That was heavy. I've just hit a heavy 7 iron, 180 yards. And I always find that that's spun at 3.7 as well. I always find that I do get very, very lazy when I do test clubs with such a big surface area, because there's so much you can hit. You might as well get your money's worth, I suppose. So if I was going to have a bit of a gripe about the G710, it feels very, very hard. It doesn't feel soft. It doesn't feel... With the Blueprint, you do kind of have that forged face. You have a lovely soft butter-like feel. So let's hit 2 more with the G710 and then move into the Blueprint and see if we can keep up, I suppose. Now the G710 is also jam-packed full of technology. It's not just strong lofts and longer shafts that does the trick. So if you do want to see a more in-depth review of the Ping G710 or even the Ping Blueprint iron, I will link those in this video so you can catch them, and I'll talk you through every and I'll talk you through every ounce of technology that goes into them. Right, last shot with the Ping G710. That's got to be 200. 191 again. Wow. Feels so hard. Right guys, so that's 6 shots hit with the Ping G710. Now we're going to go Ping Blueprint. And to be honest, I was really looking forward when I was hitting the G710 to move it into the Blueprint. But now I'm looking down at it. Do I have to? It's really small. Really small. Maybe I should have started with this one first, but... Oh, that was a heavy one to start with. And this, at the risk of embarrassment, take a look at this, because that was a shocking strike, and it's a 149 carry with a 7 iron. So for me, usually a 7 iron is around a 165 carry club, and I've no doubt that I will get a couple at 165 with this club, no problem. I do use blades myself, so it shouldn't be too dissimilar. But that just shows you a real difference straight off the bat, doesn't it? I think when I caught a heavy G710, it only went around 180, so... yeah. Wow, another one. What are you doing? There's the one. Really nice strike, 163. Spinning at 5 sticks, still fairly low. Would expect a little bit more spin, hopefully. But these are numbers now which I will come to expect depending on strike and depending on, well, depending on me, really. You see, interestingly, I do know players that use the Blueprint irons, and I don't really have the heart to tell them, but they really shouldn't be using the Blueprint irons. I also know tour players that got given the Blueprint irons and gave them back because they were just too hard to hit. Right guys, last shot of the whole test. We're going to hit half a dozen with each club. Guys, here's a fun one. Comment below what will the distance be between the G710 and the Blueprint iron. I'm going to go like 15 yards or something. Right, let's have a nice swing to finish on. A 165 par 3. That's heavy again. Ah! Right guys, that's a handful of shots hit with the Ping Blueprint iron and with the Ping G710 iron. What's the difference? We know there is a difference, but how much? Let's find out. So as always guys, we'll start with dispersion. Dispersion with the Blueprint, not too bad, a little bit of a pull on most of those. That is how I'm kind of finding I play at the moment, to be fair. The bad shot does go left, as we know. What about the G710? More on target, but wider dispersion. So part of that could be down to the offset, part of it could be down to obviously the pilot as well. What about the numbers? So numbers for the G710 and the Blueprint. The G710's on top, as we already know. Yeah, I mean, in fairness, if I did strike the Blueprint, I had a bit of a nightmare with the Blueprint, but then that is what can happen, to be fair. So funny enough, the lateral dispersion is very, very similar on average, but their average is over 6 shots, and 158, the way I've struck it's probably a fair shout. It's nearly a 30-yard difference. That's ridiculous. And like I said, I think had I struck the Blueprint better, I could get up to a 165 average, but that's still only a 20-yard difference. Speed, very, very similar. So the club head speed, 88.4 with the G710 and 88.5 with the Blueprint. But the ball speed coming off there is staggeringly higher. Obviously that's down to strike, as you can see with the smash factor, but also it gives us a totally different spin rate of 4,500 as opposed to 6,000 on average. So quite a fun test there, and to be honest, I'm quite happy that I didn't put my best swings on the Blueprint, because even if I would have smashed it, I think 170 would be the absolute limit over 6 shots on average. So it's quite a kind of fair comparison, really. If you do not strike the Blueprint well, you are going to lose distance. Definitely, 100%. If you don't strike the G710 quite well, you're still going to lose distance, but not quite as much. Now, there are still other irons in the range for Ping. There's the i210 and the G410. So we do have kind of middle of the pack ones here as well. There's also the iBlade, which is still running. So you could maybe mix and match them up. I know Tom, who works here with us, he went Blueprint short irons and then iBlade long irons, I think. Tom, if I'm wrong, then hit those comments below. But personally, if I was going Ping, I think I'd definitely go the i210, just because it's kind of middle of the range. It's got a nice thicker top line than the Blueprint. You've still got the beautiful finish on it, and they're just not as unforgiving, really. Guys, thank you so much for watching that video. I do hope you've enjoyed it. That was a comparison between the Ping Blueprint iron and the Ping G710 iron. I keep wanting to say G710 Plus, but it's not. It's just the G710 iron, so I don't know where I'm getting that from. Guys, if you have enjoyed that, please make sure you do consider hitting that subscribe button below. That way you won't miss any of the golf-related content that I bring to you guys every single day. I hope you're staying safe. I hope you're not going stir crazy at home. I hope you've got some drills you can do or anything you can do at home to keep you occupied. Guys, thanks once again. It means the world that you're watching. And as always, I'll see you tomorrow.